More than half of British parents with dependent children have not made a will, new research suggests. And I should be joined on the line by Mark Cannon, solicitor and specialist in wills and probate law of Appleby Solicitors on Intake Road in Bradford. Hi there, Mark.
Good morning.
Good morning. Could you just tell us a bit about how the research was conducted and what exactly it found?
Well, it found that quite a large proportion of people simply don't make wills. And the younger you are, the less you want to make a will. So a lot of families with children have not made any arrangements under a will for looking after the children.
And it's obviously probably quite hard to encourage young parents, because that's probably one of the last things on their mind, to think of the worst thing that can happen. They're a young parent, they should be optimistic about life. How can we encourage them to sign a will?
Well, I think part of the problem is, well, if you're a young family, you've not actually got a lot to leave, have you? You've probably got a mortgage and whatever, and you know, you don't think you need a will because you think you've got not very much. But it's always a worry about what will happen to the children if both parents die. And it gets more complicated if it's a new relationship and children from previous relationships. Then you really need to make some kind of plans for what would happen if the worst occurred.
And what's the process of action if the worst does occur?
If there isn't a will, you're in a state of what's called intestacy, and that means that the intestacy rules apply to your assets and to various bits and pieces. And that means basically that your next of kin take over.
Right.
That's not always what you want.
No, it can't not always.
And it does mean in the worst cases that people you don't particularly like your brother or sister, end up getting your assets or taking control.
And at Appleby Solicitors, how regular would you say that you witness this sort of thing happen, where people haven't signed a will and things haven't gone that sort of way, or there's been sort of contention over where stuff's left?
It's frequent, but you have to say for most people, if they don't have a will and it ends up that their wife or husband inherits everything, then that's what they want anyway. That's fine. So for most people, it isn't a problem. Most of the cases we see are to do where a couple are not married or don't have a civil partnership, and they don't seem to realise that their partner has no rights under law over their estate or taking any control over things like funerals, for example. And they'll find that family members move in, and it can be pretty horrible.
And from sort of research that I've seen, it says that the Will Aid study found that 53% of parents with no will, over half of that 53% said it was because they had not found time to do it. Is it a matter of the fact that people are aware and apathetic, or are they unaware?
I think people are aware and apathetic, and I think there's something about signing a will that is very final. And you think, all right, I've done it now. Bring it on. That's it. So I think people find it difficult to talk about what will happen after they die, especially when it's children and that kind of thing. And it takes a real push to get people to come and see a solicitor. So it's often when people are flying on a holiday together. It's often when people are going into hospital. It's often when a parent dies that you think, I'd better get myself sorted.
And so this is Will Aid Month, which is coming up this November. Yep. What is Will Aid Month?
Well, Will Aid Month is a scheme set up by charities, and what it means is that the solicitor doing your will not make a charge, but you are invited to make a donation to Will Aid, and Will Aid then divide it between, I think it's 8 or 9 national charities. So you will pay nothing to the solicitor, but if you want to make a donation, then Will Aid divides it up.
And it says that here that the campaign has raised more than £17 million in donations since it started. Put that in context of how that money can make a difference.
Well, for the charities, an absolute huge difference, isn't it? If the NSPCC gets £1 million, that's employing children's workers, that's opening offices. To the charities, it makes a huge amount of difference.
And you said it seems sort of final, but at the same time, this year's campaign is called My Last Words, which seems to be quite final itself, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. I think to make people do wills, you've got to frighten them a bit. It's not something we want to do. And so sometimes you need a shock into thinking, oh, I'd better do this.
What is your main advice to young parents considering it that maybe can't do it this month but haven't got quite the money to pay a solicitor to say write a will? What can they do?
Talk to your local solicitor, see what prices they are charging. Think about what would happen if you hadn't made arrangements under your will for the people you care for. And, you know, the chances are the trouble you would leave behind is far greater than the cost of a will. And I don't actually think wills are that expensive, considering what they might do for you.
And if people want to find out more about Will Aid Month, how can they do that?
I think, first of all, you contact Will Aid through the website, and they will give you the address of the nearest participating solicitor to you. And then you contact the solicitor, and if there are any appointments free under Will Aid, then they'll see you and take it from there.
I must say, you have to sort of empathise with the movement of trying to get people to sign wills, because it does seem very morbid, and it must be quite a difficult task.
But what I notice is people feel very relieved when they've done it. It's probably a bit like going to the dentist. You've got to do it, and when it's happened, you think, oh, that's great, and you skip out to the dentist. People, when they've signed it and they think they've sorted out their future, people are very grateful.
Well, Mark Cannon, thank you very much, and best of luck in the future in encouraging people to do that.
That's great.
Absolutely. Have a lovely day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
That was Mark Cannon there, solicitor for Appleby Solicitors in Intake Road in Bradford, speaking about Will Aid Month coming up in November.